Well, my first guest tonight was born on Friday the 13th, but it turned out to be a pretty lucky day for her parents. She wasn't easy to get booked on this show because she's been one busy young lady. On January the 10th, she was sworn in as the 47th governor of her state. Just a few weeks later, she was asked to deliver the Republican response to the State of the Union address. And in the past week, she's introduced and will soon sign one of the most ambitious education reform plans in the country, which will take her state from some of the lowest starting teacher pay to maybe the highest in the nation. But it will include accountability and empower parents to choose their children's school, whether in public, private, parochial, or even homeschool. Despite how busy she is, I was able to pull maybe a few strings to get through to her through her mother. Now, she was with us when she was press secretary to President Trump, but she's here tonight as the youngest governor currently in America and the first woman to be elected governor of Arkansas. Please welcome back to the show, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Wow. Whoa. How about this? You know, a lot of these people are from states all over America. They didn't even get a chance to vote for you. I think you need to get them to Arkansas so they can vote in the next election.
We'll take them. Come on.
No, I think people appreciate what you have already launched in Arkansas. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And maybe some people don't fully understand how big the education bill is. What are some of the things that are going to happen in Arkansas for parents?
Well, we think that we have the most bold, conservative, far-reaching piece of education legislation, not just in the history of Arkansas, but maybe anywhere in the country, certainly in modern history. And our focus is really on empowering parents to make the best decision about where and how their child should be educated. At the same time, we want to bolster our teachers. We will go from being ranked at the very bottom, in the bottom 5 in the country in teacher pay, to number 1 by the fall of next year, which I think really puts us on the map and makes us competitive. And we're putting power back into the hands of parents so that they get to decide how their kids are going to be educated.
I think a lot of parents across America, not just in Arkansas, they feel like that when they hear things like people heard in Virginia, where a governor candidate said, what goes on in the classroom is none of the parents' business. I mean, that was bizarre. So you've pushed back on that, and you've made it very clear that is not going to be what's happening for Arkansas parents.
Well, as a mom of 3 kids, I can assure you it is most certainly my business. And frankly, it's my obligation to know what is happening in the classroom as a parent. And now, as a governor, it's my obligation to make sure every kid in Arkansas has access to a quality education. And our goal should never be to indoctrinate kids and not ever tell them what to think, but instead teach them how to think.
Now, there's certainly people in Arkansas who aren't all that happy about this plan. Now, it's a pretty small but very vocal minority. And here's what they say. Well, you're going to destroy public education because when parents can take the money and it follows the student to a private school, homeschool, parochial school, then the public schools will collapse. How do you answer parents when they say that?
It's very clear to me as a mom of 3 kids, my children are all very different. None of them learn in the exact same way. So a one-size-fits-all system is not going to work. We have to make sure we give that local flexibility to the districts, to the schools, to make better decisions while also empowering parents that if a school is not meeting their child's needs, they need to have the option to take their child somewhere else. I think the real question that those individuals should be asking if they're worried about their schools, why are so many parents leaving? What can we do different to make this the place that they want to stay?
And what about parents of children who maybe come from poor families, maybe they have children with disabilities, so there's real challenges. And some have argued, oh, this will make it more difficult for them. But during legislative testimony, parents of those kids were some of the biggest supporters of the plan.
Absolutely, because this allows them to find the place where their child can have their needs best met, whether that is a private school, a charter school, the public school, or whether it's at home. And making sure that they have those options, I think, is so unbelievably important. And the only way that we can provide, I think, true local control, because there's nothing more local than a parent making a decision about what's best for their kids.
Interestingly, the teachers' union was the big point of opposition. And they said, oh, we want the teacher pay. Yeah, we want that big increase in paycheck, but we don't want to make it easy to fire bad teachers. We want to be able to keep them.
And nobody is out making the argument that we need to clean house with our teachers. We have some amazing, dedicated professionals that are doing a phenomenal job educating the students of our state. However, we do have a few people that probably should choose a different profession, and we want to help them make that decision.
You did the response to the State of the Union, which is a big deal. That is a big deal to be asked to do that. So Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell, they can pick anybody they want. They ask you to do it. Were you nervous and scared when they said?
Terrified.
Were you really? Why?
Well, I've seen some people go and it not go very well, and I didn't want that to be me. And I also wanted to be able to rise to the moment and deliver a message that I felt like really spoke to the rest of America that Biden was going to ignore in his State of the Union. And so, the pressure was high, and I came out on the other side, and I was incredibly honored and grateful for the opportunity to get to do it.
I think there was a phrase in your remarks that really resonated with a whole lot of America. When you said the issue is no longer Democrats versus Republicans, it's between normal and crazy. So that spoke to people. So what are some of the crazy kind of things that we are facing right now in the country?
I mean, some of the crazy things that we can't even define what a woman is now, and that there is not two genders, but it's unlimited number and things like that. I think people are starting to say, whoa, hold on a minute. This is not, the America that I grew up in. This is not the America that I know, where anything counts. And so talking about and defining that, I think, is really important as we move forward, particularly for conservatives, not to back down, but to engage, frankly, at a bigger level and start to go on offense instead of just allowing the other side to constantly define us and tell us who we are and call us names. We need to do that on our own terms. And so that was what I was hoping and trying to accomplish through my response in the State of the Union.
And I think you did. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm going to ask you a question that I've never asked you before.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, but it's not a difficult question.
This will be the end of my career, right?
No, it won't. But, I've never asked you, at what point did you start thinking that you might run for governor of Arkansas? I mean, I remember when you came and said, Dad, I think I'm going to run. But obviously you had been, cooking that up for a while. When did that start ruminating?
The first time I actually really started to pay attention was right as I was leaving the White House. I'd had a conversation with the president, and it was really important to me for the very first person I told in that building to be him, because he was the one that gave me that opportunity and that job. And in that conversation, he said, so you're going to go home and run for governor? And I was like, well, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, I really want to take a break and spend some time with my family. And he goes, you're going to run.
Your dad had nothing to do with it. It was the president who had all the...
Well, definitely our conversations when I moved home, that was a lot of, we spent a lot of time talking about it, and you really talking about the pressures and the reality of the job. And that was when I actually made the decision. But I think some of those moments were the first time I really started to think about actually doing that. Before I worked in the White House and before that campaign, I'd always been more of a behind-the-scenes person. Yeah. I'd never been the forward-facing individual, and I kind of accidentally became press secretary, and then that moved in that direction. But certainly you had a lot to do with it. I wouldn't be here without it.
But I wondered, even growing up in the governor's mansion, because, a lot of your growing up was there, Was there ever a moment you looked around and said, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to come back here someday, but I'm going to run this place.
You know, I think as a teenager, I certainly thought I was running the place a few times.
You kind of were, to be honest. You were.
I learned the hard way. I most certainly was not. But, you know, I can't say it never crossed my mind, but I don't think I set out for that to be my path and that to be the end goal. But to say I never thought about it wouldn't be transparent. And certainly it crossed my mind, but I don't think that was really my plan or the trajectory that I saw myself going until probably just a few years ago.
Tell us how you, as a mom and a wife, balance the family and all those challenges with the challenge of a job like governor.
Well, I have really good free babysitting in my parents, which is very helpful. And my in-laws also help out. And some days we don't balance it very well. Some days, like every other working mom out there, there are challenges that come with trying to be a really good mom and also do a really good job. And some days you don't feel like you're giving either one 100% of what they need. And so trying to find that balance can be very tricky. I found that focusing more on quality time instead of quantity of time with my kids is really important. Even if it's, 10 or 15 minutes at bedtime, making sure I get that time at the end of the day, or at the beginning, making breakfast and spending that time getting backpacks ready, taking time to put my phone down, block out all of the demands of work and really focus on what's important to them and prioritizing those things in their life, whether it's their basketball games, which my son Huck is a very dedicated basketball player in George, who you all got to meet a few minutes ago, making sure I show up for the moments that are really important to them and trying to make those things a priority and letting them know is incredibly important to finding that kind of balance.
Well, from my very objective point of view, I think you do it as masterfully as anyone ever could. I'm so proud of you. First, as my daughter, I'm proud of you as my governor. And I'm very happy that you came to be with us tonight. Thank you. What an honor. Well, we have links to the governor's education plan, and you'll be able to read the entire thing, something some of the legislators who were against it never did. So I hope you'll check that out.